Here's the divorce papers. Thanks for caring for my mom.
This was one of the most callous things Tom could say after I had cared for Julie for 13 years. He dropped the completed divorce papers onto the floor. Michelle also wore a cruel smile.
Make sure you're out by the end of today. Having you here just drags us down.
I can't believe they can laugh right after Julie's funeral. These two are clearly not human. They're demons or maybe just greedy. I picked up the divorce papers that had fallen. I don't want to lose to people like them. I lifted my head and smiled wide, saying, "Perfect. Let's fill these out and get them submitted right away."
What?
The two looked puzzled, probably thinking I'd lost my mind from exhaustion. But inside, I was secretly smiling. Everything went according to plan. We submitted the papers together, and we officially became strangers. A month later, my phone was flooded with calls from the two of them. Seeing that, I couldn't help but laugh again, realizing they finally understood. My name is Rachel, and I'm 41 years old. I live with my husband, Tom, his mom, Julie, and his sister, Michelle, just the four of us. We don't have kids. I'm responsible for taking care of Julie, who needs assistance, and for some reason, Michelle, who doesn't work. Tom hardly ever comes home, always saying it's because of work, and even when he is around, he treats me like a servant. How did I end up with a family like this? Looking back now, I can't help but think that maybe my marriage was a mistake from the start. I married Tom when I was 27. We met through a mutual friend, and he was 8 years older than me. At the time, I was working in sales at a major company, earning quite a bit for a woman. But apparently, that was a turn-off for a lot of men who didn't like dating a woman who made more money than they did. They'd say things like, "A woman who earns more than a man is not cute," and I was unable to get into a relationship that would lead to my marriage. However, Tom was different.
It's a new era. Women can earn money too. I love seeing you work hard, Rachel. Even after we get married, let's both work hard to build a good life together.
Thank you. Feeling reassured that I could keep working with him, I decided to marry him. However, at that time, he mentioned the idea of living with his mom, Julie.
It's just me and Mom living together now, you know. Michelle got married and moved out, and if I leave, Mom will be all alone. I'd like us to live together. How about it?
I agreed without hesitation. Of course, she's your mom and she's important to you. Let's live together.
Thank you, Rachel. Marrying you was the best decision I made.
There were two reasons I was willing to live with her. First, both of my parents had passed away when I was young, so I missed having that parental presence around. Second, Julie herself was a genuinely kind person. When we met, she was considerate and thoughtful toward me. Having worked for a long time herself, she understood workplace etiquette and manners well. I knew about the typical issues between daughters-in-law and mothers-in-law, but I didn't think it would be a problem with Julie. The only concern I had was Tom's sister, Michelle, who seemed a bit selfish. However, whenever she acted out, Julie would firmly reprimand her, which made me feel reassured. When we decided to live together, Julie looked a little apologetic.
I'm sorry, you're newlyweds, yet we're living together.
Please don't say that. I'm happy to be living with you, Julie. I look forward to it.
Thank you. I'm relieved to be living with you too. Leave the housework to me. I can still manage it all just fine.
When we started living together, Julie was already 70. Having married later in life, She had Michelle at 32 and Tom at 35. Julie, who loved staying active, took on all the housework just as she had promised. Thanks to her, both Tom and I were able to focus fully on our jobs. However, a year later, an incident occurred. Julie fell down the stairs to the second floor, breaking her back and thigh, which left her bedridden. The accident happened when it was just the two of us at home. Both Tom and Michelle rushed over and immediately blamed me.
This wouldn't have happened if you'd been paying attention.
That's right. You're living here and benefiting from her help. And now look at what's happened. You're a failure as a daughter-in-law.
They both tried to place all the blame on me. And because the accident had occurred while I was at home, I ended up accepting their harsh words. I'm so sorry.
This is completely unacceptable. You're going to take full responsibility and manage your jobs while caring for Mom. And don't expect any help from us. This is all on you.
I understand. Honestly, I couldn't think clearly anymore. The shock of seeing the once kind Julie now bedridden was overwhelming. I started to believe it was all my fault. To care for Julie, who now needed assistance, I switched from a sales role to an administrative position and transitioned to working from home. Truthfully, I had wanted to keep working on the front lines of sales. If I'd kept going for a few more years, I could have earned a promotion. But now I'm completely off the career advancement track.
I'm so sorry, Rachel. I feel terrible that you're stuck at home because of me and even had to change your job.
The only comfort I had was Julie's kindness and her awareness of my situation. I'm okay, Julie.
Still, I feel bad. I'd be perfectly fine with a helper.
But Tom wouldn't allow it. He hated the idea of strangers in the house. And so, at 28, I began caring for Julie. I never imagined that caregiving would come into my life before I even had children. The path to career advancement and the path to becoming a mother were both cut off for me. Yet, each day, I managed toilet assistance, feeding assistance, and all my remote work duties. Tom's words to me were always harsh.
It's only natural. Don't you dare reduce a single dollar of what you bring into this house. Balancing caregiving with work is simply what a wife should do.
Honestly, my love for Tom had completely faded. Looking back, I realized that when he supported my career before we got married, it was only because he saw it as more income for the household. I thought about divorce, but I couldn't leave Julie in this situation. I wanted, at the very least, to stay with her until the end, so I endured Tom's heartless words, gritting my teeth. 2 years later, thanks to the caregiving, Julie was slowly able to sit up on her own. Even at her age, recovery was possible with determination. A glimmer of hope appeared, but it was soon shattered. Michelle was getting divorced and moving back home. Why is she coming back here? She's already left as a married woman. This may be her childhood home, but Tom and I live here now. That's what I thought, but Tom answered as if it were obvious.
Well, this is her family home. She was a stay-at-home wife with no money. Letting her stay here isn't unreasonable. Don't be so heartless.
But Michelle's divorce was due to her own infidelity. Her young son's custody was granted to her ex-husband, and she now owed alimony and child support. Bringing her, with all her problems, into the house felt like inviting trouble. But it wasn't my place to interfere in their family matters. So I reluctantly agreed to let her move in.
Rachel, thanks a bunch. Things got messy and I need a break, so I'll be counting on you.
Showing no remorse, Michelle kicked me out of my own room, claiming it for herself. I tearfully moved all my belongings to a corner in the living room. She might be difficult, but Julie is still her mom. Surely she'll help with the caregiving. I held on to that faint hope, only to have it crushed immediately.
Why should I do any caregiving? It's smoother for an outsider like you to handle it, right? Besides, you work from home, so you have the time.
But Julie's needing more help at night now, and I'm exhausted. Any help would be appreciated.
Toilet assistance? Are you kidding me? Expecting me to pitch in is just plain audacious.
Michelle never lifted a finger to help with the caregiving. And that was the real beginning of my nightmare. Michelle lazes around the house without working, and when she does go out, she spends recklessly. She never cooks, washes, or cleans, so I took care of her all. Michelle insists that all of this is my duty as Tom's wife. On top of that, she constantly insults and criticizes everything I do.
Hey, didn't I say I need my clothes washed with a specific fabric softener? Can't even manage a simple load of laundry, you know? And Rachel, your cooking is just so heavy. Can't you make it a bit healthier? Poor mom has to eat this too, you know. Rachel, are you seriously younger than me? You look so worn out. You're practically a grandma already.
Michelle seems to take great pleasure in tormenting me. She does it as if it were some sort of game, like a cat toying with a mouse. Before, Julie would have scolded her for this, but now bedridden, she no longer has the strength. Since Michelle returned, Julie seems to be getting weaker, or maybe it's just my imagination. As for Tom, he shows no concern, even when he sees this happening. I had completely given up expecting anything from him. Then one day, I overheard something shocking. After helping Julie to the bathroom one night, I went downstairs to grab a cup of coffee, only to hear Tom and Michelle chatting over drinks in the living room. I stopped, listening behind the door.
Rachel's working so hard, and we don't even have to touch Mom's inheritance.
Tom said, sounding pleased. They were talking about me. I froze, and then Michelle's voice followed.
You really found yourself a good little servant. She works remotely, brings in money, and takes care of Mom with total dedication. This way, we won't have to dip into Mom's savings, and the inheritance for us will be even bigger. Got it? Don't ever let her use money for caregiving.
Of course. I've told her it'd be cruel to put Mom in a home or hire outside help. She's managing fine for now. She can keep going until Mom passes.
And once Mom's gone,
They exchange smug smiles.
We'll kick her out.
I sank to the floor, trying not to be noticed. To Tom and Michelle, I was just a caregiver for Julie, someone they could discard once she was gone. But that much was obvious. I had already decided that once this was over, I'd leave without looking back. What truly hurt was realizing they had absolutely no love for Julie. They refused to use any of her savings on a caregiver or a facility to save every last cent of her inheritance. It was sickening to think their motives for living together were purely financial. I never realized just how greedy and shameless they were. I stood up, heart heavy with sadness, and made a firm resolve. This can't go on like this. This isn't right. From then on, the caregiving life became a struggle beyond words. Julie's health continued to decline with her age, growing weaker day by day. As she lost the ability to do more things, she began to lose confidence. With her increasing level of care, Balancing my remote job became nearly impossible, and in the 5th year of caregiving, I left my job.
How could you do something so selfish? We're losing an income.
Tom, of course, was furious, but I was exhausted. I just can't take my eyes off Julie anymore. Lately, she started to show signs of dementia.
Then at least do some piecework from home. Useless.
Understood. Tom completely treated me like a nuisance, pushing me aside. He probably wanted the caregiving to end quickly and for me to leave as well, now that I was worn out and no longer cheerful.
I wish Mom would just pass already.
I once overheard him say this awful phrase. His mind was focused entirely on the inheritance that would come after Julie's passing. Greedy doesn't even begin to describe him. Michelle was no different. She remained uninvolved in caregiving and seemed to live solely to torment me. And even the once kind Julie gradually succumbed to dementia. By the time the caregiving life had reached its 10th year, it seemed she had completely forgotten who I was.
Hi, what a lovely young lady. Thank you so much.
Sometimes Julie was gentle, but other times she wasn't.
No, who are you? A thief? I'm scared. Dad, help me.
Julie's memory often became confused. I managed Julie carefully, trying not to scare her, and soothed her when she became upset. Once, when I stopped her from wandering out on her own, she scratched above my eye, leaving a scar. Before I knew it, the years had flown by. I was in my 20s when this started, and now I was 41. Julie was 84, and the caregiving life had entered its 13th year. And finally, the day arrived. Early one morning, Julie suffered a heart attack and passed away in the hospital. It was so sudden that at first, I couldn't process it. I felt sadness and loneliness from losing Julie, but at the same time, I felt relief and a sense of freedom.
She's gone.
When the doctor said those words, I didn't shed a single tear. Maybe because I felt a sense of accomplishment from having cared for her until the end. Beside me, Michelle sobbed dramatically, and Tom clenched his jaw and looked away. But I knew exactly what expression he had on his lowered face. Julie's funeral passed by in a blur. Though it was a small, modest affair arranged by the stingy Tom and Michelle, I handled all the background work, dealing with relatives, making arrangements, and by the end, I was exhausted. As I was cleaning up the drinks in the kitchen, Tom and Michelle, already dressed in their casual clothes, walked in.
Rachel, is the cleanup done?
Yes, I just need to finish what's in the sink,
I see. Then,
Tom said with a satisfied smile.
here's the divorce papers. Thanks for caring for my mom.
He dropped the signed divorce papers onto the floor. I stared at them in shock, and then Michelle, with the same nasty smile, added,
Make sure you're out by the end of today. Having you here just drags us down.
I quietly turned to face them. Kneeling down, I reached for the divorce papers they had dropped. They thought I was picking them up reluctantly, and they smirked. But that wasn't it. I was thrilled. Perfect. Let's fill these out and get them submitted right away.
What?
When I looked up and said that, both of them gave me a dumbfounded look. Ignoring them, I filled out the papers smoothly. Inside, I was grinning to myself. Everything went according to plan. These two are just so predictable. They seemed confused by my unexpected reaction, but I didn't care. I had been waiting for this moment for 13 years. The moment I could finally get a divorce. All right, now let's head to file it. It's best if we both witness it being officially submitted.
Yeah, right.
Tom snapped to attention, nodding in agreement. Trying to regain control, he snatched the divorce papers from me.
Fine, then go get changed. That gloomy funeral attire won't do any favors with the office staff.
Calling it gloomy right after the funeral. These two feel nothing about saying goodbye to their own parent. Understood. I said that and left the living room, hearing their confused voices behind me.
Well, what's with her attitude? She should be more upset. This is no fun.
Come on. She's just putting on a brave face, obviously. But once she's officially out of here, we're free. Legally, she doesn't have any claim on the inheritance. Though knowing Mom, she might have left something for her. Best to get her out before she figures that out.
Exactly. Mom's jewelry and designer items are all mine.
So that's their plan, as I expected. I sighed. Kicking me out right after the funeral was just to ensure I couldn't claim anything Julie might have left for me. Classic moves for two people so greedy. Little did they know, I was fully aware of it all. Sorry to keep you waiting. Let's go.
You're slow. Always causing trouble right up to the end.
I've put your things right there so you can leave right after filing.
Sure enough, in the corner by the entrance, there was my bag. All my belongings fit into it easily. With the bag in hand, I got in the car with him. I submitted the divorce papers right after Julie's funeral, officially becoming a stranger to them. In front of the court, I said goodbye to Tom and Michelle without getting back into the car. Well then, goodbye.
You're such a gloomy woman to the very end. It's a relief knowing we won't see you again.
Don't ever come back, all right? You're not getting a single cent from us.
Not that I'd ever want to return. There's nothing left for me in that house now that Julie is gone. I turned and walked toward the station. A month later, I woke up to find a mountain of missed calls on my phone. They were all from Tom and Michelle, reaching nearly 100 in total. I sighed at the annoying sight of the screen first thing in the morning. Now, I live alone in an apartment. Right after Julie's funeral, I stayed in a hotel while looking for a new place. Then, I moved to a town far from Tom's family home. The truth is, since the beginning of our marriage, I had a few bank accounts Tom didn't know about. For now, I have enough savings to cover my living expenses. I've taken to leaving my phone in the living room at night. Looking at all those missed calls, I couldn't help but laugh. For them to be calling this much, they must have finally realized. But taking a whole month, that's just lazy. I have no obligation to call them back. I reached for my phone to set up call blocking. But just at that moment, another call came through, and I accidentally answered it by mistake. I realized I'd made a mistake, but it was too late. Tom's voice, which I had no desire to hear, blared loudly from the phone.
So, you finally picked up, you slowpoke. You took Mom's money, didn't you?
The very first thing he brings up is money. What are you talking about?
Don't play dumb. How the hell are you listed as the beneficiary on the life insurance? That's just absurd.
That's what you say to your ex-wife who cared for your mom for 13 years? Unbelievable. When I fought back, I sensed that Tom was momentarily speechless. He was probably shocked because this was the first time I'd ever stood up to him after being so obedient. But I wasn't holding back anymore. I figured this accidental call was a chance from above to finally speak my mind, so I decided to lay it all out. The life insurance was something Julie herself suggested. She felt bad for me and wanted to leave me something. That's all there is to it.
That's a lie.
It's not a lie. This is an undeniable fact. I recall the time when Julie was still herself, before dementia set in.
Rachel, I feel so guilty for all that you've done for me. If it's all right, could you take this as a thank you?
Julie initially tried to give me her jewelry and designer items. They were certainly valuable, and selling them could fetch a good amount. But Michelle had her eye on them, and she even knew where they were kept. I'll be fine, thank you. Since I was reluctant, Julie still wanted to find a way to leave something for me. That's why she changed the beneficiary of her life insurance.
The inheritance will go to those two. Even if I leave a will, they'll still have the right to claim their legal share, and knowing them, they won't overlook a penny when it comes to money.
Well, that's true.
But life insurance isn't part of the inheritance. They can't take that from you. Rachel, I'm asking this as a favor. I wouldn't be at peace if you, who cared for me, received nothing.
Julie understood Tom and Michelle well, thought it through, and ensured I had a share. I didn't particularly want the money, but it made me happy that Julie cared about me and took action like this. I accepted her proposal gratefully. At that moment, I resolved to care for Julie properly until the end. It was my way of repaying her kindness. And it also meant protecting her from the cold-hearted Tom and Michelle.
You tricked Mom, didn't you? You must have influenced her to change it while she was still dealing with dementia.
Stop accusing me. You can check the date on the change. Julie was fully aware when she did it. She even consulted with an attorney. So if you're that suspicious, go ahead and verify it.
But that's not all.
A loud noise erupted on the other end of the line. Apparently, Michelle was nearby, and her voice cut in sharply.
Well, Mom had a secret account separate from her regular savings, and there's a huge amount missing. $10,000. You didn't take it, did you?
Oh, that. The truth is, Julie had another savings account she hadn't told her family about. A diligent saver, Julie had quietly built up a secret fund over the years. She had told me about it before she passed, and we had a conversation about it.
It makes me sad to think of this money going to those two. They'll just waste it all, just like they have with the current savings.
Oh, Julie. Before her dementia set in, Julie was fully aware that they were squandering her assets. She knew they were counting on her inheritance, refusing to use welfare services just to save money, and even hoping for her passing. Julie muttered sadly,
If only I could leave it to my grandson. That poor child had to go through the pain of his mom's affair.
Her grandson was still in elementary school and had been taken in by his dad. Hearing this, an idea struck me. Julie, why not consider a living gift?
A living gift? But wouldn't that be a burden with all the taxes?
If you send it regularly, I'm sure he'll appreciate it. Julie nodded at my suggestion. I discreetly used my phone while Michelle was in the bath so she wouldn't notice. I secretly noted down her ex-husband's contact information and gave him a call. At first, he was surprised by Julie's offer, but he accepted it gratefully. Wanting to thank Julie, he had a video call with her through my phone.
Thank you, Rachel. I never thought I'd get to talk to my grandson like this. Michelle insists I shouldn't meet him, saying it's unnecessary now, and I'd resigned myself to never seeing him again. This is such a gift.
I'm glad to hear that, Julie. Julie's eyes filled with tears. And until her dementia set in, I continued to handle the transfers for her. When Michelle found out about this, she predictably lost it.
A living gift to my son? Why didn't you go through me, his mom? This is outrageous.
Mom, don't make me laugh. You had an affair and gave up custody. Now you want to act like his mom? If we had gone through you, you'd have just taken the money for yourself. Don't worry. Your ex-husband is a responsible man, and he's using it for your son's education. Michelle's lack of care for her son was obvious. She hadn't even invited him to Julie's funeral, despite him being a direct descendant. To her, he was a mere afterthought.
How dare you, acting high and mighty when you're nothing but an outsider?
That's right, I am an outsider now. So we're done here, aren't we? I was about to hang up, but they kept ranting. Frustrated by their persistence, I made up my mind. If it's come to this, I'll confront them directly. I invited them to my apartment.
Why should we have to come to you?
They were furious at first, but eventually agreed, motivated by money. As I waited for them, I couldn't help but think how endlessly greedy they were. After a while, the intercom rang. When I answered it, the concierge looked confused, which made me chuckle. Got it? I'm sorry. I'll handle it, so please tell them to wait in the lobby.
Understood.
I left my room and went down to the lobby. There, I found Tom and Michelle standing awkwardly with puzzled expressions. They weren't sitting on the guest sofas, probably because they weren't sure if it was appropriate for them to do so. Unfamiliar with how to behave in such settings, they seemed to have confused the staff at the front desk as well. I greeted the concierge who had helped me, then turned to the two of them. The moment they saw me, they rushed over, looking like lost children. Their eyes were filled with a strong sense of confusion.
Is that you, Rachel?
No way. It's someone else.
His rude remark caught me off guard, but it was understandable that they were shocked. Finally free from caregiving, I had taken the time to present myself better, shedding the scruffiness I once had. It's been a while. I stood tall and faced them. Startled, Tom quickly closed his mouth, which had been hanging open in disbelief.
Still, what the heck is this place?
Isn't this one of those luxury condos? How did you?
Be quiet. Please follow me. Ignoring their agitation, I led them to the elevator. In the eerily quiet elevator, the faint sound of their excited breaths made me slightly uncomfortable. When I brought them to my apartment, their excitement flared up again. This was the upper level of the building. With a great view, it must seem like a dream to them.
How do you have so much money?
Of course, Tom immediately brought up money. Given his nature, he probably wouldn't realize the secret I'd kept. The truth is, my late parents were modestly wealthy. They left behind a considerable inheritance, but I never touched it. I invested in stocks, and it just kept growing. That's all there is to it. My parents, who passed away when I was young, they were both hard workers who lived their life prudently. Wanting to be like them, I focused on earning my own way without tapping into their inheritance. I worked for a large corporation, thriving on the front lines in sales. The joy of working was something my parents taught me as they set a serious example with their hard work.
Why didn't you say anything while we were married? This is basically marriage fraud.
I was afraid you'd be blinded by money. I thought I'd build trust during our marriage and then tell you when the time felt right, but I couldn't build that trust. I looked down and said, I figured it out early in our marriage, but you're a money grubber. You're relying on your parents' savings and are solely focused on inheritance. If you had realized I actually had money, what would you have done? You would have stopped working and relied on my finances.
Of course, we're family, so everything is communal property. Your money and your labor are all fair game because we're family.
I see. That's how you are. But right now, you and I are strangers. That reasoning doesn't apply anymore. When I said that, Tom grit his teeth in frustration. He was probably thinking about the big fish he let get away and feeling low about it. In a fit of regret, Tom snapped back.
You're just going to waste away that inheritance too. Now that you've lost your jobs, how are you going to pay rent? You'll be broke in no time. And don't come crying to me when that happens.
I couldn't help but laugh. How utterly clueless can he be? You say you're going to waste it too. So you're the one who's likely to squander Julie's inheritance?
Well,
Don't worry, this apartment is my asset. I have rental income from other places as well. Hearing that, Tom was shocked and sank to his knees.
no way.
He kept repeating that while looking downcast. I raised my voice to address both of them. Now you see that our worlds are different. This is the last time you're coming here. I'll inform the concierge that you're banned from entering. You won't even be able to get into the lobby.
Who would even want to come here? Even if you asked, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't know about that. You'll be signing an agreement. I'll go get it, so just sit and wait. With that, I went to fetch the documents I had set aside in another room. While I couldn't enforce a legal restraint, it wouldn't hurt to have them sign something. In fact, I had also set a trap to ensure they wouldn't come back. Hopefully, they'll fall for it.
I'm done with a lying woman like you.
Tom grumbled as he scribbled with the pen.
Hey, Rachel, this is okay, right?
Michelle smiled contentedly, obediently signing the agreement. From the looks of it, it seemed they had fallen right into my trap. Yes, I confirm receipt. I got both Tom's and Michelle's signatures. If they try to get involved again, this should hold some power. After handing it over, they left, displaying their lingering attachment, but at least they finally left. Little did they know, at that moment, they were digging their own graves. What they didn't realize was that I had hidden cameras set up in my house. Later, I could check the footage showing their greedy behavior clearly. The moment I stepped away to retrieve the agreement, Tom snatched a watch, and Michelle grabbed some jewelry. Well, I had intentionally placed them in obvious spots, but seeing them steal so shamelessly was truly pathetic. I immediately reported the incident to the police. After providing the video and explaining the situation, I received sympathetic looks from the officers. Unsurprisingly, Tom and Michelle were arrested for theft. In family situations, theft charges can sometimes be waived. However, we were no longer family since the divorce papers had been accepted. We could file charges against each other, and they could be arrested. With the already limited assets diminished further by fines, Tom would lose his job as well.
Oh my God. I got fired from my job. Michelle, you need to start working and bring in some money.
What? I absolutely refuse to work now.
Is that really what you should be saying right now?
Now, Tom was juggling part-time jobs, while Michelle was struggling with a job she wasn't used to. The greedy guys would likely continue to bicker and live together in conflict for the foreseeable future. As for me, I naturally enjoy working, so I started a new job. thinking that no company would hire someone in their 40s as a full-time employee. I decided to start my own business instead. It's a home care service company. After caring for Julie for 13 years, I realized, in the end, it's best for a person to have someone caring by their side. I think of Julie's smile as she happily chatted with her grandson. I hope everyone can spend their later years with such a smile. Although I just started and the scale is small, I've been fortunate to have great talent on my team, allowing for a solid launch. Now I'm able to earn a stable income each month and create a system that benefits the caregivers as well. For those receiving care to smile, the caregivers also need to be in an environment where they can smile. Reflecting on the challenging 13 years, I regret not being able to make Julie smile a little more. That's why I work hard today. I want to make sure the past wasn't wasted and to be able to meet Julie with a smile in heaven.